Okay, so now that we have completed part 1 of the recap of our formula series, let's go right ahead and move into part 2. Part 2 will cover subtraction, multiplication, and division. And with that being said, let's dive right in. Okay, welcome to part 2 of the recap for formulas. We're going to go ahead and dive right into subtractions. Okay, so now let's begin by placing our mouse inside of cell C25. And again, let's go ahead and type equal to let Excel know that we are about to do a calculation. Okay, so let's go ahead and select cell C23. Let's type the minus sign and select cell C24. Let's go ahead and say enter. We're left with a balance of 500. Next, let's go ahead and place our mouse inside of cell F25. Let's say equal. Let's select F23 and type the minus sign. Go ahead and select F24 and say enter. We're left with a balance of $4,866. Let's go ahead and select cell I25 and say equal. Let's select cell I23 and type minus. Let's go ahead and select cell I24 and say enter. Here we are left with a balance of $31,825. Let's move right into L25 and say equal. Let's select L23 and say minus. Let's go ahead and select L24. Now let's go ahead and click the enter sign. Here we're left with a balance of $96. Let's do the final calculation for subtraction. Let's place our mouse inside of O25 and say equal. Let's go ahead and select O23 and say minus. Let's select O24 and say enter. Here we are left with a balance of $721. Okay, so now we are ready to get into multiplication. Let's begin by placing our mouse inside of cell C34. Let's go ahead and say equal. Let's select cell C31. Let's hit the time sign. In this case, it would be the asterisk. And let's go ahead and select cell C32 and say enter. And as you can see, we are left with a total of 15,000. Okay, so next let's go ahead and place our mouse inside of cell F34. Let's go ahead and say equal. Let's select cell F31. Let's say times, which again is the asterisk sign. Let's go ahead and select cell F32 and say enter. Our results is 21,168. Let's go ahead and place our mouse inside of cell I34. Let's say equal. Now let's select cell I31. Let's click the asterisk. Let's go ahead and say 35, which is in cell I32. Let's go ahead and say enter. Okay, we're left with $19,040. So for the last two items for multiplication, I did add a multiplier so we can extend our knowledge in terms of multiplication. So let's begin by placing our mouse inside of cell L34 and say equal. Let's select cell L31 and say times. Let's select cell L32 and say times. Now let's go ahead and grab our multiplier. We can either do it by grabbing the cell or we can type the number directly. I'm going to grab the cell and I'm going to say equal by hitting the enter button. And here we have $157,248. Now I'm going to do this again for the last item, but this time I'm going to type the multiplier instead of grabbing the cell just to show you the difference. Let's begin by placing our mouse inside of O34 and say equal. Next, let's go up to cell O31. Let's click the asterisk for time. Let's select cell O32. Let's go ahead and click the asterisk again for times. This time, let's just go ahead and type the number 6 instead of grabbing the cell number. Now let's go ahead and click enter. Here we have $715,500. Okay, so you're doing a great job. Let's go ahead and complete our division exercises and then we'll wrap up the lesson. So let's begin by placing our mouse inside of cell C42. Let's say equal to let Excel know that we are about to perform a calculation. Let's select cell C40. Let's go ahead and hit the / for division. And then let's go ahead and grab C41 and say enter. Okay, and we have a 1.5 as our answer. Okay, so next let's go ahead and select cell F42 and say enter. Let's select cell F40.
Let's go ahead and hit the / for division.
Let's go ahead and grab the number 25, which is in cell F41, and go ahead and say enter. And here we have an answer of 200. Next, let's select cell I42 and say equal. Let's go ahead and select cell I40 and
let's do a /.
Let's go ahead and select I41 and then we'll say enter. We have 100 as our answer. Next, let's go ahead and select cell L42 and say equal. Let's go ahead and select cell L40.
Let's do a /.
And then let's go ahead and select cell L41. Now this time I want you to take a look at your formula just so you are familiar with what the formula should look like in terms of division.
We want to make sure that we are always using the / and not the / to divide.
Let's go ahead and say equal. Let's do our last exercise and then we'll wrap up the lesson. Let's go ahead and select cell O42 and say equal. Let's go ahead and select O40.
Let's do a /
and grab the number 4, which is in cell O41. Let's go ahead and say enter. And we have an answer of 300. Okay, so we are going to wrap up this lesson. Great job today. Thanks for joining us, and I'll see you in the next video.
Congrats on completing this video and on your commitment to learning Excel. Be sure to save your work and then pat yourself on the back. You are doing an awesome job.